let's have a conversation, shall we? I was talking to Asia earlier about father figures, and it got me to thinking about my parents, specifically my father. It's funny because whenever I sit around and I talk about missing my parents, I'm usually talking about my mother, but I still feel as though I was closer to my father than my mother in a lot of ways. Like my mother taught me some very important life lessons, and I even did a video about the things that my mother taught me. But the things that my father taught me are just as significant, if not more. They just can't be nailed down to a cute little catchphrase like "Don't start what you can't finish" or "Squeaky wheel gets oil." Like the things my father taught me were completely different, and I feel as though I didn't give him the credit he deserved. He was doing his best to prepare me for life, and I was too young now to fully get that. So today, I would like to have an honest conversation about my father. You see, if my father taught me anything, and this is probably the one that I hold to the most, and I cling to this, and I do it every day, is I do things in my own way, on my own terms, in my own time. I don't let anybody dictate to me what I should or shouldn't like, or why I should and shouldn't like a certain thing. I do what I do and I enjoy it. Period. See, my father was into some things that I thought were questionable for a man his age. He had a very unhealthy obsession with anime. Specifically, the ones that come to mind for me are Sailor Moon and Steel Angel Karumi, which I enjoy. I thought Karumi was cute. And Sailor Moon, for what it was okay. But he had a very unhealthy obsession with it, in my opinion. And whenever we would go to like Best Buy, or I think back then it was Circuit City, we would go to Circuit City to get DVDs. He would always clean out the anime section, and he would go home and he would watch them. Like if there had been message boards at the time to talk about that sort of thing, my father probably would have been a moderator for an anime chat board, and they would be talking about like conspiracies or whatever, and oh, in the next episode, and speculation about characters and that kind of thing. And I thought that was weird, but that was a man who did things in his own way. It's to equate that to my life. I have an unhealthy obsession with Power Rangers. Like, that's odd to me. Like, now when I say an unhealthy obsession, like I don't have like Green Ranger bed sheets or anything. But I'm currently writing a piece of fan fiction about Power Rangers. I'll watch it. I've seen the movie. I plan on buying the DVD when it comes out. Like, I'm obsessed with the lore of Power Rangers, and regardless to whatever justifications I use for it, I'm a 42-year-old man who obsesses over a kid's show. But you know what? I don't let nobody tell me I can't enjoy it, because I do things in my own way, on my own terms, in my own time. My father had the textbook definition of a mail order bride. This woman was so far away that if she had been any further away, she would have been on her way back. Like, that's just how far she was. Like, she was exactly 12 hours. There was a 12-hour time difference. So if it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon here, it was 1 o'clock in the morning there. And he spent his entire life savings getting her here to take care of her. And I thought he was an idiot for that. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you purposely make it harder for yourself? Can't you just meet somebody here? But it was what he wanted. That was who he wanted. Regardless to the circumstances, regardless to whatever consequences may have come from that, it was what he wanted. So he did it. And I applaud that. And to equate it to my life, I was a 33-year-old man who fell in love with a teenage girl on the internet, on a ringtone website, no less. And I packed up my son, sight unseen, and moved across the country for a woman because I loved her. I'm so much more like my father than I give myself credit for. He did his best, but it wasn't the sort of thing he was like, okay, son, do things in your own way on your own time. He just did it, and he led by example, and I respect that from him. Like, my only true regret in my life is that he was long since gone before I came to that realization. And I would like to have been able to look him in the eye and go, I get it. I get you. Like, no, this is very, like, I get it. I get you. I understand. See, I never got to do that for my father. And while as a father now, I would like to think that he knew deep in his heart that I would get there, I wanted him to see me get there, you know? So that's a thing I'm never going to get. I'm never going to have that moment with him. So that's why I think I make sure I have it with Kari as often as possible. Next, and I think is just as important, is he never told me what to think. He coached me in the ways of critical thinking. Like, he wasn't a religious person. If he was, then it was the sort of thing that he and I never discussed. He never told me what his beliefs were. We would have conversations from everything about time travel to aliens, but he never once said, this is what I think, you better think it too. What he would do is he would give me books on Hinduism, or books on like just Eastern philosophies and Western philosophies, and he'd say, hey man, read this, and when you have a minute, we'll discuss. So I would sit and I would read, and then we would discuss, and we would have what I felt as though was very enlightening conversations. I mean, granted, I was only in my 20s. Like, I don't know if I fully understood the complexities of the things he was talking about, but he wanted me to think. And he allowed me to draw my own conclusions, which is all any parent can do. Like, I do my best to raise Kari, and he said this the other day. He came to me and he asked me, was he difficult to raise? And I said, no, you raised yourself, but I was just there to run interference so nothing got in the way. You know, I allowed him to find his own way and his own path, and I made sure he was safe as he traveled along that path. And now I can safely say I've carried my son until he can carry himself. And I like to think that I taught him how to think, not what to think. Like, he and I agree on a lot of things, but we also disagree on a lot of things. And I think that's important. That's probably the most important lesson my father could have taught me, or at least one of them. You know, just think for yourself. Don't be a fucking drone. Don't just do it because everybody else is doing it. Do it because you mean it. Do it because it means something to you. And now that's what I do. Like, my religious beliefs I'd leave you in shock and awe. Like, the things that I believe, the conclusions that I've come to, have nothing to do with a book, but it also has nothing to do with what science can or can't prove, or what can be disproven or not. I believe what I believe, and that's it. I can adjust my way of thinking if new information becomes available, and I like to think that I do. That's what a critical thinking person does. Like, there's no such thing. I don't think all the leading scientists in all the world compounded all of this, fake evidence as a global conspiracy to trick me. Like, these are people who devoted their lives to this, and these are the results that they found. They are worthy of my attention. They are worthy of study. And I read whatever they've done, and I interpret it, and then I associate that into what I think now. And I think that's important. Um, Finally, I think, wow, I'm realizing now how much of an influence that man had on me and still does. Like every now and then, especially when like Michael comes over, like Asia's little brother, I find myself saying stuff like little buddy, and I hear my father's laugh. It's funny, but the last thing I want to say he really drilled into me was don't do things for the money. Like, do what you're passionate about, and money will come. Like, I remember when he first really discovered computers and he was really learning the ins and outs. Like, at this point, I think Kari would run circles around the old man for what he knew about computers. But he had discovered this program, and what he would do is he would go to like Ace Hardware, and he would buy all these generic clocks, like for $3 or something, and then he would take orders at work, and instead of numbers, it would be little pictures of family members, and then he would print out the clock, he'd put it all back together, and then he would sell it for like $10. And it's like, wow, that's 300% profit. And he got a little lost in it. He got a little obsessed with it. I really think he was into Photoshop, but not the way we are now. But that was something he was passionate about, and he made a little bit of money from it. So much so that I feel like he neglected his actual job, which is something I would never do. But it was something he enjoyed doing, and he made money from it. And I think that's what's most important. Like, that takes me back to last year when we all collectively decided as a family we were going to do reaction videos, and we did them. And I noticed that like views were coming, people were watching, but I just didn't feel comfortable with it. It just, you watching me watch something else wasn't entertaining to me. Like, I really feel like reaction videos are a cancer to content. It's like, watch me watch somebody else's shit. Like, who wants to see that? Why are people watching this? Like, I will say that the Let's Watch that I did with Asia, we did Let's Watch Power Rangers. That was okay. Because that was kind of me explaining it to Asia. We were kind of teasing it or something. But, that's really it. But it wasn't just me staring at a screen and then going, ha 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 ha, that was a funny thing that just happened. But it's like, you can't really see it because they're not showing you what they're watching, or you're watching just to see what they're watching. Like, you could give a shit less about their reaction. You just wanted to watch the trailer to this movie, and this is the first thing you clicked on. So I didn't want to do that. Like, I don't do these videos for the sake of views or content or, oh, let's get famous. These are for me. But I still want to do things that I'm passionate about. I've been passionate about this book that I'm writing because it really lets me be me and open up and explore a whole new world that, like, the Power Ranger sandbox is just so much that I could play in, and it's just never been done before. So I just want to play around in it. So that's what I'm doing. I don't care if it ever makes a dime. I don't care if it ever sees the light of day. The joy that I get for writing it is just unparalleled to me. And these are things that my father knew. Like, for me, it's like this big revelation. It's like, wow, yeah, it's like I'm 42 years old. Now, again, these were things that he knew years before he died. And I was either too stubborn or just unwilling to hear him out. And part of me regrets that. But at the same time, I look at the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations, everything that's happened in my life. And I like who I am. I like where we are. Like, the end of the month is going to be really weird. Like, I still don't know what's going to happen with this job. Like, it's all up in the air. But man, I love who we are as people. I love my family. I love my wife. I love me. I love my son. I love what we do. I wouldn't trade this for the world. And if that means I have to live with a little bit of disappointment because I didn't have that conversation with my father, then so be it. You know? I'm very proud to have been his son. I look at that now, it's like, what a man who selflessly gave everything he could to teach me a lesson, even when it hurt him. You can't ask for much more from a father. And I hope that one day soon, if not already, but one day, I want Carter to be able to look back and go, wow, my dad was a good dude, and he did his best. You know, I used to worry that my son would look at me the way I looked at my father. And as I got older, I understood how that line of thinking was wrong. Like, it was silly of me to have such negative connotations about my father. So now, it is my sincerest wish that one day, and hopefully before I die, I would hate to be gone when he gets it. I want him to look at me the way I look at my father. I want him to hold me in the same regard, in the same esteem, to see me in the same light. Like, I can't think of a greater compliment that I could get. To be like, you are more like your father than you know. And for my son to see that. And it's funny because I see so many little things in me, in him. Like, I see he adopts a lot of my mannerisms, and I adopt a lot of his too. But Kari Jamal is really his own man. And I like to think it's because of the influences that I got from my father and the influences that he got from me. Yeah. My dad was a good dad. He died trying to teach me that lesson. And now I get it.